It really wasn't that long ago that the big question for businesses was if they should even move to the cloud. Well, today, that debate is pretty much over. The real conversation, the one that really matters, is which cloud platform you should choose. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the big three to help you figure that out.
So yeah, this is the big question, right? Whether you're a tiny startup just getting off the ground or a massive global enterprise, one of these platforms is probably the perfect fit for you. Our goal here is to give you the framework to find it.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll meet the players. Then, we'll look at who's winning the market and how big their global footprint is. We'll put their core services head-to-head, try to make sense of their pricing, and finally, we'll highlight where each one really shines to help you make that final choice.
All right, let's kick things off by properly introducing the three titans of cloud computing. That's Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and of course, Google Cloud. Each one has a pretty unique backstory that really shapes what they are today.
But before we compare them, let's make sure we're on the same page. What is cloud computing anyway? Honestly, this analogy is a fantastic way to think about it. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining your own expensive servers and data centers, you're just renting that computing power on demand over the internet. This is what gives businesses that incredible scale, flexibility, and cost efficiency. It's a total game changer.
So, how do these titans actually stack up in the real world? Let's look at two really important things: who has the biggest market share and just how far their global infrastructure reaches. And the story here is actually pretty fascinating. AWS, the one that started it all, still holds the biggest piece of the pie at 31%. Now, that leadership means they often have a huge community and tons of third-party tools. But look at Microsoft Azure. They're a powerful challenger, growing super fast to capture a quarter of the market. And Google Cloud, while in third, is gaining ground really quickly, especially in some very specialized, data-heavy areas. This table gives us a sense of their sheer physical scale. Now, why do these numbers matter? Well, a provider's global footprint, all its regions and availability zones, is absolutely critical for speed and reliability. See, the more locations they have, the closer you can place your applications to your users, which cuts down on lag. And while they all define these terms a little differently, you can see the immense scale all three are operating at. It's truly massive.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty, the core of what they offer. Pretty much every application you build in the cloud rests on a foundation of three things: compute, storage, and databases. So we're going to compare their flagship services in each of these key areas.
So for compute, that's basically the processing power, the engine for your applications. Each provider offers a very similar toolkit. AWS is known for having a ton of options with services like EC2. Azure, on the other hand, really excels with its seamless integration for anything running on Windows. And then you have Google Cloud, which is a real leader in containers, since they're the ones who pioneered the Kubernetes technology that powers GKE.
What about storing all your data? Well, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. You've got object storage like Amazon S3, which is great for unstructured data, things like photos and videos. Then there's block storage, which acts more like a traditional hard drive for your virtual machines. And you have super low-cost archive storage for data you barely ever need to touch. As you can see, all three have really solid options for every single scenario. And for databases, it's a pretty similar story. Whether you need a classic relational database, a flexible NoSQL solution, or a beast of a data warehouse for analytics, you are totally covered. AWS's DynamoDB is a real powerhouse for NoSQL, while Azure's Synapse Analytics is this great all-in-one solution. And of course, Google's BigQuery is just legendary for its performance when you're analyzing absolutely massive datasets. And now for the topic on everyone's mind: money. Cloud pricing can seem like a total maze, but it's really built on a few core ideas. So let's break down how you get billed and, more importantly, how you can actually save some cash.
So the foundation for all three of these platforms is what's called the pay-as-you-go model. You're billed only for the resources you actually use, often down to the second. This gives you incredible flexibility, letting you scale up for busy times and then scale right back down to save costs, all without any big upfront commitment.
But, and this is a big but, you can do way better than that on-demand price. All three offer things like reserved instances or savings plans, where if you commit to using their services for 1 or 3 years, you can get massive discounts, up to 75% off. For jobs that can be interrupted, spot instances let you use a provider's spare capacity for next to nothing. And Google Cloud has this really cool feature called sustained use discounts, which automatically saves you money on workloads that just run all the time. And to help you get started, each provider has a pretty generous free tier. This is an awesome way to just play around, experiment, and build out your ideas without having to spend a dime. AWS and Google both offer a set of always free services, and all three give you a nice chunk of credit or free trials to get you going.
Okay, so beyond the direct feature-for-feature comparisons, each platform has really developed its own distinct personality and excels in different areas. And honestly, this is where the right choice often becomes a lot clearer. So let's explore the unique DNA of each one.
First up, AWS. You can think of them as the established giant. Their biggest strengths are their maturity and just the sheer breadth of their services. With the most services, the largest global footprint, and a massive community of users, it's an incredibly versatile and reliable choice for just about any workload you can dream up.
Then you have Azure, which is, without a doubt, the champion of the enterprise. For any company that's already heavily invested in Microsoft products, we're talking Office 365, Windows Server, all of that. Azure offers a level of integration that's just unmatched. It's also the clear leader in hybrid cloud, making it super easy to connect your own data centers to the cloud.
And that brings us to Google Cloud, the innovator. They're really leveraging all that deep expertise from running things like Google Search and YouTube. It is the go-to platform for any cutting-edge work in AI, machine learning, and data analytics. And as the birthplace of Kubernetes, it offers a best-in-class experience for modern, container-based applications.
So with all of this information floating around, how do you actually make a decision? The thing is, the best choice isn't about which platform is objectively the best, but which one is the best fit for your specific needs, your budget, and your team.
Here's a simple little framework to guide your thinking. First, just look at what you're already using. Then, think about what you actually need. Are you building something that requires Google's fancy AI, or do you just need some solid, reliable virtual machines? Analyze your budget, and finally, think about your team's existing skills. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the smartest one.
So, to boil it all down, if you need the biggest toolbox with the widest range of services and proven scalability, you should probably look at AWS. If you're a big company, especially one that runs on Microsoft software, Azure is your natural home. And if your world revolves around data, AI, and modern cloud-native apps, then Google Cloud is your powerhouse.
And that brings us to our final thought. We've spent all this time comparing these three giants to help you pick just one. But, more and more businesses are realizing they don't have to. The big trend now is moving towards a multi-cloud strategy, using the best services from each provider for the right job. So maybe the real question isn't which one to choose, but how to best use them all.